Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here, and welcome everyone. I'm really excited that you could make it. I know Sam went over a few housekeeping rules, but I just want to follow up with a couple. You are more than welcome to take pictures of the slides and anything like that. In fact, I encourage you to do so. But just make sure that your phone is on airplane mode so that we're not getting distracted by any text coming in or anything like that. I'd also really love it if you guys had something available to take notes on. A lot of what we're going to go through today is really tangible, actionable steps. And so I want to make sure that you guys can write this down and have this to refer back to as you move forward. Now, as Sam said, my name is Jessi and I'm a speaker and personal development coach. And we're going to be talking today about how to make simple language swaps to really skyrocket your success. And I want to show you how the language that you're currently using can really be holding you back. But just to get started, a little bit of an icebreaker question here. Just let me know in the chat, where is everyone from? I'm in Portland, Oregon, and it is not raining today, which for October is a win, and I am celebrating it. But just let me know, where are you guys in the chat? I'd love to hear where we're all coming from today. Give you a couple minutes to do that. Let's see what we got here. New York, Salt Lake City, Boise. Hey, sort of West Coast there. Hey, Portland. Hi, Heidi. Welcome to Portland. All right, we're from all over. This is awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. So just to start a little bit about myself. Let's see if I can get my slides. There we go. 3 things you should know about me before we get started. Number 1, I cannot throw anything. Footballs, baseballs, literally anything. A stick, can't do it. I am the type of person that will throw a plush toy for my dog and try to throw it up the stairs and it will end up in the kitchen sink. It has happened multiple times, so don't judge me. Thing number 2, I can't use scissors. I'm a lefty, so maybe that's part of it, but they don't work. It doesn't work. I don't know if any of you guys saw the video of Chris Evans back in Boston doing a ribbon cutting ceremony for his local theater, and they had to try the scissors like 3 or 4 times. That's me. Thing number 3, I cannot make a bowl of mac and cheese to save my life. My mom makes the best homemade mac and cheese in the world. It is so good. And I'm not talking about the Kraft box stuff. If any of you work for Kraft, I apologize, but I'm all about that homemade mac and cheese, but I can't do it. She will sit there and watch me and tell me what to do, and I still can't do it. So that being said, I'm not going to talk to you guys about throwing, using scissors, or making mac and cheese at all today. We're just going to skip that part. What I am going to talk about is words, because your words have power. Not in the way that if you think about a Lamborghini is going to appear in your driveway. Unfortunately, that's not how words work. Not going to happen. Hate to break it to you. But your words have power because of yourself. So if you believe yourself to be ugly and you can't do anything right and you're always failing and you're never making progress, you're going to act in accordance with how you speak about yourself and your life. Same goes with the world. If you constantly think that people suck and that no one is trustworthy and that the world is unfair, you're going to make choices that align with that belief and therefore perpetuate that belief that the world is unfair and that people suck and everything like that. So just feel the difference between this. I can't do this. This is so hard. I'm struggling so much right now. I want you guys to say this where you're sitting right now. I can't do this. This is so hard. I'm struggling so much right now. And you can even throw in like your best 10-year-old whiny voice if you want to do that too. That's totally an option. So feel the difference between that and this. I'm working through something that isn't quite right yet, but I'm going to learn the skills I need to accomplish it, and I'm confident that I can. Feel the difference in how your voice tone changed, how your posture changed, how you felt about your ability to make and achieve the steps that you need to in order to work towards this goal. Again, I can't do this. This is so hard. I'm struggling versus I'm working through something. I'm confident I'm going to be able to achieve it. That small difference in your posture and your voice sets the tone for how you're able to accomplish your goals moving forwards. That's just one example, but think about if you tell yourself every single day, this is hard, I'm struggling, I can't do this. And then the next day, this is hard, I'm struggling, I can't do this. And over and over and over, think about how ingrained that belief is in you simply from using that one set of words once or twice a day. That's the power that we're going to tap into today. We're going to go through 20 words and phrases to swap out, starting right now. But before we begin, I need you guys to approach this from a place of grace towards yourself. And that's kind of like, why? But let me explain. Changing your language is hard. It takes time and practice. For example, one of my latest goals for myself in terms of my language has been reducing my use of filler words like and like and things like that. And it was really hard. I thought I was a good speaker. I thought I sounded very professional, but once I started thinking about it, every other word was like or and it was really frustrating. There's still times today where I use like and I'll probably use it at least once during this presentation, but it's something that I'm working on. Don't try to take these language swaps and implement all of them 100% of the time and expect perfection today, because that is unrealistic. And I want you guys to succeed at this. Instead, start by just noticing it. When you think it or say it, just have a little light bulb go off in your mind saying, oh, okay, there's something that I wasn't supposed to say. Great. And then the more you do that, the more you'll be able to correct it in your mind. So you say something, you recognize that you said a word that you are trying to not say anymore. And in your mind, you'll be like, oh, I'm going to replace that with whatever you're replacing it with. Then as you do that enough and you build enough practice at that, you'll be able to correct it out loud. You'll say, oh, this is so hard. Actually, you know what? I'm working through something that isn't quite right yet. And blah, blah, blah. And then finally, after all of this practice, it'll just become automatic. And these negative thoughts and words that you're using aren't going to be in play anymore. But guys, like I said, this takes time. This is hard. This is not something that's easy, despite the fact that the swaps I'm going to tell you about are very simple. So give yourself some grace. Don't expect perfection right away, but just know that the more you practice this and the more you incorporate it, the easier it's going to become. So the first thing that I want to start with is a pretty obvious one, just general derogatory terms about yourself. Things you should not say, things we're going to swap for something that can creep into our minds are things we need to throw out and replace immediately. And this really ties into what I was saying before, that how you think about yourself and how you speak about yourself will determine the actions that you take. So for example, if you believe that you're fat and you tell yourself that you're fat and ugly every single day, you're going to eat like you're fat and ugly, and you're going to wear sweats because you're not confident in the clothes that make you look beautiful and feel beautiful. So these words about it. I'm constantly learning. I'm beautiful. I'm powerful. I'm capable of doing hard things. Even just changing those little words in your mind, it's going to completely change your perspective of yourself and your ability to do things. And therefore, it will actually change your ability to do things in real life. So that's number one. This is a pretty broadly encompassing number one. You know, this is anything that's just those general derogatory terms that we tell ourselves when we're feeling really bad about ourselves. Swap them. And this is, Jessi's going to talk about this, but it's the same thing. When we tell ourselves we can't do something, we will not do the thing. There's a famous quote, and I can't for the life of me remember who said it, but it goes something along the lines of, if you think you can or you can't, you're right. If you think you can or you can't, you're right. Someone just posted it in the chat. Let's see if they know who that came from. Henry Ford. Thank you, Jenny. That is beautiful. So Henry Ford said that. And it's so true. If you believe that you can do hard things, you can do hard things. If you believe that you can't, you will quit as soon as hard things start coming up. So instead of saying you can't do something, swap that out with, let's see here. Come on. My slide is not changing. Give me a second, guys. Technical. There we go. I'm going to try anyway. I'm learning how to. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it my best effort, despite the fact that maybe I'm a little uncertain. I'm learning the things that I need to in order to make it possible for me to achieve what I need to. So instead of, I can't, I'm giving up, that's it, I'm done, I'm going to try anyway. And the more you try anyway, the more you're going to succeed. Word 3, I don't know. This is an odd one. I actually had a coach that I worked with a while back tell me about this one. She's like, stop saying you don't know, because it's the same thing as saying you're giving up and you don't know the knowledge and you're not going to try to find the knowledge and that's it. The thing with the language, and a lot of the language that we use now, is that it's holding us in place. And I'm going to talk about this at the end of the presentation, but it's holding us where we are. It is stagnant, it is unmoving, and it does not allow for progress. Some of the swaps that I'm going to encourage you guys to make move this forward. They allow you to progress. They allow you to give yourself grace and say, hey, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm going to take the steps to get to where I want to be, and I'm confident that I can get there. So that's kind of the framework that we're working with here. I don't know, gives up. You're like, meh, I don't know. Moving on, don't care. Instead, I don't know yet, or I'm learning how. Yet is such a powerful word. And I know when we talk about manifestation and visualization and things like that, we want to talk like it's in the present and say, I've achieved the things that I'm working to achieve, because that gets our brain into believing that we've achieved the things that we're working to believe. But in terms of language swaps, saying that you don't know yet opens the door for that progress to come in, like I was talking about. It allows you to move forward and say, hey, not yet. I don't know yet, but I'm going to do the things that are going to help me know, and then I can achieve the goal that I want to have. Does that make sense? Perfect. Next one. I had to. Oh boy, this kills me every time. So I had to. When you say that you have to, you take away your power to choose, and everyone wants control over their life. The next few are actually going to all relate to power and control over your own life. So when you say you had to, you are giving up your ability to make choices for yourself and your life to some external power, whether that's God or the world or your friends and family, whatever that is. So instead of saying you had to, you choose to. You didn't have to go to the doctors today. You're choosing to because you value your health. You didn't have to go on a run today, but you're choosing to because it supports your goal of running a marathon with your friends. You didn't have to study for this test, but you're choosing to because you want to get a good GPA so you can get a good job and blah, 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 blah. This is the foundation of goal setting. What do I mean by that? You have a goal. You have a why that supports that goal. Why do you want that goal? And then you have the language that builds up your why. And this is the language. You're not being forced into any of your goals. You're not being told you have to do anything. You are choosing to do that thing because it gives you some other thing that leads to some other thing that leads to some other thing. And all of these are goals on that path. For example, taking that good grade one. You're not having to study to get a good grade. You're choosing to because you want the grade that'll give you a good GPA, that'll allow you to get a good job after college, that'll allow you to provide for your family. That chain of events all starts with this simple language swap of I had to and I choose to. That's how powerful this stuff can be. It sounds so simple, but it can absolutely change your life and your trajectory. Next one, you made me. This is the same thing, but even clearer with the blame thing. If you want to have control over your emotions, if you want to be the one that decides what path you're on and where you're going in life, you cannot allow other people to make decisions for you. This holds true for your emotions as well. If you allow other people to tell you how you feel or allow their actions and beliefs about you to impact how you feel, you're giving up your control. Blame, in my mind, is completely useless because you're giving up that control and because it allows for no progress. Remember, this is all about opening the door for progress and change and movement towards your goals. So when you blame someone else, you slam that door shut on progress. The reasoning behind that is when you're telling someone else, oh, you have control over this, and you're blaming them and you're saying, this is your fault. And then they're saying, no, it's your fault. That's great. I don't really care whose fault it is because none of that is moving us forward. None of it is fixing the problem. None of it is solving the situation. So throw out you made me. And again, I allowed you to. Now there's some of you out there that are probably like, oh my God, but there's horrible things that happen in the world that people did not allow. And that's true. There are certain situations, and unfortunately there's quite a lot of situations that are out of your control. But a lot of this relates back to feelings. If, let's say, one of those situations was a natural disaster, and you're saying, I allowed that natural disaster to happen? No, but you do control your response. Are you going to pick yourself back up? Are you going to work and rebuild and carry those around you and hold their hands as they rebuild their lives? Or are you going to sit back and let that natural disaster take everything from you? That's your choice. That's what you're allowing, that reaction. So instead of you made me, this external force controls how I feel and how I act, I am allowing what influences I want in my life and acting based on how I want to on that. Next one. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is a multi-level one. See, every slide that I go to the next one, I was like, oh my God, this is more important than the last. So all of them are really important, guys. I just get excited about this, so bear with me. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for making you mad or sad or whatever feeling you want after that. These are two separate ones, but they're both I'm sorry, so I'm going to work through them at the same time. The reason that I think we need to swap out I'm sorry is because you say that you're sorry so many times a day. I'm sorry is as powerful as I love you, and yet it is almost as overused as I love you. I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that. And yet you have no intention of changing your actions, and you have no sincerity behind I'm sorry. You might be saying it so that the other person doesn't get mad at you, or so that you can exit the conversation so you don't actually have to have a discussion about what happened. I'm sorry for making you mad or angry or whatever feeling you made someone else feel goes back to the one we were just talking about. You are not in control of someone else's emotions. You can't make them feel a certain way. So when you say, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry for making you mad, it's like you don't have anything better to apologize for, and you just want to shut the conversation down by saying, I'm sorry. Instead, try this. I'd like to make this right, and I'm sorry I was late. Now, the reasoning behind this is I'd like to make this right. If you legitimately don't think you did anything wrong, but you aren't happy with how the relationship between you and the other person is right now, you can say, I'd like to make this right. You're not apologizing for their feelings because you have no control over that, but you are expressing interest and dedication to the situation to help improve that relationship. The next one, I'm sorry I was late. You can only apologize for actions that you did, not ways that other people feel. Again, you can only apologize for actions that you did, not how someone else felt about them. So instead, I'm sorry I made you mad, or I'm sorry you're upset with me, or something like that. Say that you're sorry for an action that you did. I'm sorry I was late. And then the next part is you actually have to have the intention to change that. You have to move forward and say, yes, I apologize. I made a mistake on this action, and this is what I'm going to do to change it so that it doesn't happen again. So many apologies fall flat because there isn't that follow through. There isn't that ability to work through and say, hey, you know what? I really did make a mistake, and I apologize for that. I want to make this right between us, and here's the steps I'm going to take to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So that's with apologies. And you guys, let me know in the chat, how many times have you been apologized to and you're like, they literally didn't even listen to me. They did not listen. They did not care. They didn't even hear what I had to say. They just wanted to shut it down and say, oh, sorry, who cares? Type yes in the chat box if you have had that experience, if you know what that feels like. Yeah, let's see. Someone in the chat just posted, I read somewhere that you can say, thank you for waiting for me, and then follow up with the remedy you plan to implement. That is so, so powerful. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for waiting for me. Instead of, sorry, I'm late. Thank you for waiting for me. And then the plan that you're going to do. Oh, yes, we have too many people saying that empty apologies happen. Let's change that. You're going to be the leaders that say, we're not going to do that anymore. So following up on the apology train, the next one that we have, if I can get my slides to move, it appears that when I click on, there we go. Okay, it's okay. And this goes right in line with apologies too, because let's say someone apologizes to you, whether it's an empty apology or not an empty apology. It's okay. No worries, it's okay. It's not okay. What they did to you and how they made you feel, and how you felt, see, language swap right there, and how you felt because of it is not okay. By you telling them that it's okay, you're saying, yes, it's okay for you to repeat that action again. And it's not. So instead of it's okay, swap that with we're okay. You can also say thank you for the apology, but I really like we're okay, because that tells them that what they did was not okay. They needed to apologize for it. But because they did, it hasn't impacted the relationship to a point where you don't want to be friends with them anymore. You never want to see them again. You're going to hate them for the rest of your life. So instead of, hey, I'm really sorry I was late. It's okay. Switch that to, hey, I'm sorry I was late. We're okay. Let's just go and have a great night tonight. It's going to feel really awkward at first because we've spent so many times in our lives just saying, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, and brushing it under the rug. But saying we're okay is a very, very intentional change. And they'll get that. It's a very intentional change that does feel really awkward. So just take a breath, pause, say we're okay about 200,000 times, and then it'll feel more natural moving forward. The next swap that I have are things like, I'm so embarrassed and I'm so insulted. Now, this might be a little bit of a tough pill to swallow, and I don't mean to truth bomb any of you guys here. But the things that you're embarrassed about and insulted about are what you believe to be true about yourself. I'm going to say that again. The things that you're embarrassed and insulted about are the things that you believe to be true about yourself. For example, I love my dad. I really do love my dad, but he is a little bit of a social hermit, I guess, and he would agree with that statement, so don't yell at me for saying that. And when I told him that I was starting to speak, he literally laughed. And he was like, who is going to pay someone to speak that has no experience and no advanced degree? And that hurt. That ate at me for so long. And eventually I was able to realize that the reason it hurt so much and the reason that I was so embarrassed that he said that was because I had doubts myself. I had those same doubts. I wasn't confident that I could get paid to speak. I wasn't confident that I had the experience to really make an impact in someone's life. Now that I have more self-confidence in that aspect of my life, he said that again since then. Love my dad, but he said that again since then. And it doesn't even faze me because I know that I am a good speaker and that I can make a difference in people's lives and that I deserve to be paid to speak. So that ability to be confident in yourself and overcome your own beliefs and own doubts are going to be the things that are going to help you stop being so embarrassed and help you stop being so insulted. So again, work on yourself. Instead of sitting there and being like, oh my God, please don't say this thing. It's going to make me so embarrassed in front of all these people. Work on yourself. If they do say it, laugh about it, and then recognize what you have to work on. Because the things that you're embarrassed and insulted about are the beliefs you hold true about yourself. This is hard to learn. It's hard to implement, but it's also hard to learn because you don't want to admit that you have these doubts. It's uncomfortable, but it's okay. Again, remember, I said at the very beginning, you need to approach this from a place of grace for yourself. Don't think about this as, I have to be perfect and implement this, and I can't be embarrassed, and I have to be confident, and no one can insult me, because you can't jump there right away. You have to do the work. You have to put in the time and the steps to get all of this in place so that when these next doubts of other people come up, they just run right off your shoulders because you know how powerful and confident you are. Next one that I have for you guys is never and always. Now, is anyone here, yes in the chat box, is anyone here very analytical, mathematical, literal? People like that. Who is here like that? Let's see. Yep, yes, sometimes. Engineer. Hi, Aaron. Yep, yes. All right, so we got a lot of people here that are very analytical, very literal, and I'm one of those people too. So never and always is going to be right up your alley because you want to be correct, right? And so when you're sitting there and saying, this never happens, or I'm always this, or all of these negative things that you're saying about yourself or life or whatever, you are being mathematically incorrect. And so I'm going to challenge you to instead use rarely and usually. Again, this opens the door for progress because if something never happens, it is by definition impossible for that thing to happen. Same with always. If it always happens, then it is impossible for it not to happen. Whereas rarely and usually leave a little bit of room for those potential changes to happen. That being said, it also recognizes the frequency of things. I had a coach tell me once, if you say things like, I never succeed and I always fail, then you should switch that around and say, I always succeed, I never fail. And that just didn't sit right with me because it's not true. I do fail sometimes and I don't always succeed. And that's okay. But using rarely and usually and words like that leave a little bit of room for progress, but they still recognize kind of the statistical average of when these things happen. That felt a lot more comfortable for me being a very analytical, literal, mathematical person. If you really want to give yourself a kick in the butt and you're like, yes, I always succeed, and you want that as a, what word am I totally blanking on right now? An affirmation. If you want to use that as an affirmation, that's fantastic. But if we're talking about, okay, let's step back. Let's evaluate our success. Let's see what we've done so far, how we've worked through things. Then using words like rarely and usually, or heck, even putting numbers on it. I have failed at 15 of my last 60 attempts at this thing. That opens the door for progress and honors the truth in your own life. That's the thing, guys. When you're working through these language swaps, I don't want to take away from the truth that is happening in your life. If you're feeling these negative things about yourself and you're feeling insulted and embarrassed and like you're a failure and that you never succeed and all of these things, I don't want you to say, I'm happy and perfect and I love life, because that feels inauthentic. I want you to recognize the power that your words have and start making little changes. Whenever I work with my clients and help them make changes in their own life, they usually have these big goals, which is awesome. But I break it down into the little steps down here. What is one thing you can do right now, today, that's going to bring you closer to that? what is a habit of doing these one things over and over and over and over, you really make progress towards that big goal. If though you start and say, I'm going to do all of the things right now and achieve my goal tomorrow, that's really hard. Your motivation for that is going to falter. You're going to fail at something, one of those little mini tasks, and then give up on the whole thing. But that one thing every day is sustainable. This can be your one thing towards improving your confidence, feeling better about yourself, being more successful in your personal and professional lives. This one thing of this one language swap can really help you move towards that goal without completely disregarding and disrespecting the truth that's in your own life right now. So next one that I have, I'll try. This is one we've probably heard before, probably in a cartoon of some sort of a military guy yelling, there's no try, it's either do or don't, or something like that. At least that was my childhood. But using I'll try leaves the door open for failure and for you to fall off the wagon with your motivation. So instead of using I'll try, I will. Now, if you say you will, and then you don't, and you give it an effort, you're not just, oh yeah, I'll do it, and then have no intention of doing it, then you can go back to our apology tactics that we talked about. Hey, I'm sorry I didn't follow through on this thing. Here's how I'm going to fix it next time. But if you're like, I'll try, that's a way for you to sit on the fence and not commit to doing the thing. You have to commit to your goals and your changes if you want them to actually work and to stay in your life. So if it's, I'll try to stop thinking so negatively about myself, and I'll try to make some of these language swaps that Jessi talked to us about today, you're probably not going to do it. But if you say, I will make the language swap of stopping to say, it's okay after someone apologizes, I will make that change. That is so much firmer and so much more enactable in your own life because you made that switch from, I'll try, to yes, I will, I'm going to. That is huge, guys, really, really huge. The next one that I have for you is just. And as women, this is so common, especially as professional women. How many times do you walk into anything, a cover letter, a business meeting, a job interview, a conversation with a friend, anything, and you're like, hey, I just wanted to do this, or hey, I just feel like this is happening. Oh my goodness, I used to do that all the time. When I would reply, I'd send emails to someone who I wanted to speak at their college or wanted to partner with them, and my follow-up email would be, I just wanted to follow up on this, or I just wanted to see how you felt about this. And that undermines you so much. You have just as much right to say, I want this, I'm following up on this, let's do this, as anyone else, as any male counterpart. So saying, I just this, or I'm just feeling like this isn't right, or I'm just thinking that maybe we should do something differently. You're taking the power of that emotion and of your capability in that emotion and completely squashing it. Do you understand how powerful this is for professional women? We are constantly battling in the workplace the same respect that we give our male counterparts. We want that for ourselves. The same opportunities, the same leadership capabilities, the same respect in the workplace. So why would we undermine ourselves when we're already struggling to receive that from people that are out there, higher ups, men, whatever? Stop undermining yourself and using just. Same goes for feelings. I just feel a little mad. I just am a little upset about this. No, you're mad. You're upset. Own it. Own whatever you're feeling and use that to make decisions and show how important whatever it is you're mad and upset about is to you. Stop undermining yourself. Just don't use that word. Same goes for Like I talked about in the beginning, a big goal of mine recently has been to cut down on my use of filler words. And is one of those words that completely undermines your credibility, just like. Now, of course, there's an appropriate use of like, but, like when we're talking like about things that are like really important to us, and we like think that maybe we should like do something different instead of like what we've been doing for like the last 10 years. Do you hear that difference? That completely makes you sound less professional, less credible, less knowledgeable. And as other people believe that, it reflects back on you. At this stage, if you are using like and so much that you are not confident in your message, other people are going to hear it, you're going to hear it, and you're going to become less confident in yourself. If you walk into a boardroom, if you walk into an interview, and you are constantly like, hey, I just wanted to like check in and see how things were going, and I just hope that like you don't think that I'm upset, because I'm just not really that upset. Even my voice changed there. That's the power of this. When you don't believe in your own knowledge and you don't believe in your own ability to make change and be a leader and be respected, that'll reflect in your language. Your language will reflect that back on you, and you will broadcast to the rest of the world that you weren't confident. So again, silence. These are the two biggest ones for professional situations. You know, stop using stop using like, things like that, and stop using just, because all of those filler words and things like just completely undermine your credibility, your confidence, your professionalism. And as you speak them, you are A, telling everyone else that you don't believe what you're saying, and B, telling yourself that you don't believe what you're saying. I bet you can imagine how quickly that would go into a downward spiral. The next one that I have for you guys, and this is one of the ones that I talked about at the beginning, is I'm struggling. This is hard. This is so difficult. I can't do this. Blah, 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 blah. And you're whining and you're whining and you're whining. This, again, this door of progress, I need to like wear a shirt that says door of progress, and then I can just point to the shirt and say, hey, door of progress. But these words completely shut that door of progress. If you are struggling, you will continue to struggle. If you say this is hard, it will continue to be hard. So instead, I'm working through something that isn't quite right yet. This is difficult for me right now, but because of this class that I'm taking tomorrow, I'm going to learn the skills to get over this. I'm going to learn the skills to work through this. So again, you're not saying everything's fantastic and this is perfect and I'm doing so fantastically at this that I'm just amazed and should buy myself a trophy. No, that's inauthentic. That's toxic positivity, things like that. But you are saying that I'm getting there. I'm moving through this challenge. I'm continuing to progress towards my goals through the language that I'm using and through the choices that I'm making that are backing up the language that I'm using. Just a side note about that toxic positivity thing. That was something I actually learned somewhat recently, within the last couple of years. And it's a really interesting concept. Obviously, you know that negativity is toxic kind of by definition, but that constant positivity of, this is fantastic. Just be happy. Just think positive thoughts. Stop being so down on yourself. Everything is fantastic. That's as toxic as saying that, you know, life is horrible and I suck and this is all miserable and gross and nasty, because it doesn't respect you. It doesn't respect the truth that's in your life. It doesn't respect that, hey, things are hard. I'm going through something right now. But when you open that door for progress by using some of these language swaps, that's when you can not dive totally into toxic positivity, but you can move through that struggle and continue to progress. So that's a key difference that I really wanted to highlight, especially with this one. I don't want you to just flip the switch and say, woo, I'm going to throw myself a party because everything is so fantastic. No, you're acknowledging that things are difficult right now, but you're saying that you're going to move through it. And therefore, because of your language, what did I say at the beginning? Because of your language, you're going to make choices that align with how you speak about yourself. So you're going to make choices that are going to progress you through the difficulties that you have right now. I'm going to check the chat real quick. Preach, girl, I hear you. And just an email communication is powerful, guys. This is powerful stuff. I send so many emails using, I just wanted to do this and I just thought this. And it was like, no, I want this. I thought this. And it completely changed how I approached that situation, because I was no longer someone that was begging for this person's attention and approval. I was coming to them as an equal and saying, this is probably my one. I hate this one so much. I don't have time. No, you have time. You have just as much time in the day as anyone else on the planet. The idols that you look up to in your professional and personal lives, they have the same 24 hours in the day that you do. You cannot tell me that you don't have time to do this thing. Instead, you can tell me that it's not a priority, and that's okay. I have used this in my life, and it makes such a huge difference from, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to make dinner. I don't have time to do laundry. I don't have time to send out these 20 pitches that I need to send out today. No, it's not a priority to do dinner. It's not a priority to do this, because I'm choosing. Remember, we already talked about the power of choosing over have-toing. I'm choosing to do this thing instead. And once you have this basis of it's not a priority because I'm choosing this instead, you can build off of that to connect back to that, your goal and your why and the words that support your why that we talked about earlier. So It's not a priority. I'm choosing to do this instead because here's your why. Here's how that's helping you move towards your goals. This is so big in relationships too, guys. I had a great boyfriend a while back and he was fantastic, but he would constantly say, oh, I know I told you I was going to do this, but I ran out of time, or I didn't have time, or I forgot to do this because I didn't have time to do this. And I would constantly tell him, no, it just wasn't a priority for you. It wasn't a priority for you to walk the dog like you said you would because you were too involved in this thing. Now, unfortunately, he didn't tell me why he was so involved in those other things, so I couldn't have that conversation with him. But I try to get him to switch and understand that you have time. It's just not a priority. Now, the biggest thing with this, once you start to accept this and acknowledge this in your own life, is that your priorities don't have to look like everyone else's. You don't have to prioritize working out if that's not something that's moving you closer towards your goals. You don't have to prioritize, I'm trying to think of someone else, gardening and raking the leaves if that's not something that's going to bring you closer towards your goals. Your priority list is completely yours. It can look different than everyone else's. It can be 100% unique and authentic to you. And in fact, it should be. It is your life and your choices, and you prioritize them how you need to. You just need to recognize that the priorities that you're making and the priorities that you're setting for yourself will result in external actions. So if you're in a relationship and you prioritize your partner at the bottom of the list, that's going to reflect in your relationship and you might lose your relationship. Now, if you're okay with that because your relationship honestly isn't a priority, then that's fine. Then prioritize the things that are actually important to you. But recognize that you will make choices based on your priorities. So prioritize well, but hold strong to those priorities and don't give yourself the BS excuse that you don't have time. You do have time. It's just not a priority for you. And that's okay. Just don't forget that. This one is the last one that I have for you, but we're going to talk a little bit more about expectations and stuff after this. But this is probably the most powerful one out there. Should. I should do this. Oh my goodness. We, especially as women, spend so much time catering and bending to the expectations and standards of others. And using this term should only shoves us into those expectations even further. It completely disregards and disrespects how you are feeling and your goals, beliefs, and values in favor of someone else's. And that is the perfect recipe, a 100% foolproof plan for a life that is passionless, purposeless, stifling, and unfulfilling. Does anyone want a life that is passionless, purposeless, stifling, and unfulfilling? I definitely don't. So this was one of the first language swaps that I made when I started working through this in my own life. I stopped saying should. I should do nothing other than what I want to do, what aligns with my goals, beliefs, and values. Now, I don't mean this in a selfish way of like, I'm never doing anything for anyone else because I'm only going to do what I want to do. That's immature and that's irresponsible, and that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is when you have something that aligns with your goals, beliefs, and values, you're choosing to do that thing. Even if it goes against what your parents want you to do, even if it goes against what your spouse or partner thinks they want you to do, my God. And even if it goes against what society tells you that you should do based on your gender or your age or your sexuality or your gender orientation or anything like that. This is your life. This is your choice. And things that align with your goals and beliefs and values are the only things that you should be doing. This is what I meant when I said that it holds you stagnant and it doesn't allow you to move. Yes, that door of progress that we talked about so many times is so powerful, but using should also holds ourselves captives to the standards and expectations of others. Why? We don't know what we want. Sometimes we haven't put in the time and the self-reflection and the personal development to understand what our passions and purpose are and how to use that and move through that in our own lives. So we just do what other people tell us to do. We want to keep others happy and make them proud of us. I know especially for younger women, that is so true as you're moving through college and you're getting your first job and you're so relying on your parents for some things. You want to make them happy and you want to make them proud of you. I literally, when I was in college, lived pretty much a double life because my parents were supporting me financially, which I was super thankful for. Love my parents for that. Thank you, parents. But they threatened so many. I did something that they didn't like, they'd pull funding straight out from underneath me. So on the surface, I was living the life they wanted me to live. I was doing the things, I was making the choices, I was learning the things that I needed to in order to keep them happy so they wouldn't pull that funding out from underneath me. When on the inside and on kind of this covert secret agent life that I was living, I was pursuing what I wanted to do. I was pursuing my passions and my goals and building my own set of beliefs and values. And guys, that's really, really hard living that double life, because you mess up and you say one thing and then it's like, oh crap, that was supposed to be in this life, not this life. And it's exhausting trying to live a life that conforms to someone else's standards when you are just craving to get out on the inside and show the world who you are and who you are authentically. So that one's super powerful. Another reason why we might be using should and conforming to the standards and expectations of others is because we think others know best. This, again, is really powerful for younger people or people who have had really powerful and maybe positive influences in their lives from leaders or older people or whatever. We just think they know best. We don't have the experience. I'm too young. I don't know yet. I've only had 3 jobs, not 17 like they've had. So I don't know, they must know best. Sometimes this looks like saying things like, I'm not sure what I want to do, but mom says I should do this, so I'm just going to do it. Has anybody said that? Yes, in the chat box if you said something along those lines. Next one. I've been working at this job for 30 years. It's too late to change careers now. Again, if you've said that, drop it in the chat box. I'm too young to do that. No one will take me seriously. There's a great podcast out there. I believe it's by Amy Jo Martin called Why Not Now? And it's stories of people who have had this thing of, I'm too young, it's not the right time, no one will take me seriously. Whatever those expectations and standards of a standard life path are, thrown them out the window, ask themselves, why not now? Why not me at this very moment? Why can't I do this thing? And then went and did the thing. That mental swap of, it's not the right time to why not now changed their lives and allowed them to change the world. This is how powerful this is, guys. And the last one that this could manifest as is, I don't want to make him mad, so I'll just do what he wants me to. These are things that people say that they don't necessarily understand how they resonate and how they enact change in their own lives. Now, we're going to put a stop, big red X over that today through a process called writing your own dictionary. Now, writing your own dictionary is the concept of often being told to be happy and to create a fulfilling life and to pursue success. But no one ever asks what those words mean to you. Because success and happiness and fulfillment mean different things to different people. And it is not only your right, but your responsibility to find out what that means in your own life. The way that we do this, and the way that I've done it in my own life and helped a lot of my clients do it, is through the word associations game. What this looks like is you have a list of words for your life. Okay? You have a list of adjectives that you want your life to look like. Here are some word ideas. Feel free to take a picture of this, screenshot. I don't know if you can screenshot on Zoom, but just write this down, whatever you need to do with this, just to get you started. And you have these words that you want your life to look like. So strength, you want strength in your life. You want freedom, you want power, you want wealth, you want safety, you want all of these words. And what I want you to do with this is write them down on a piece of paper. So 1 per note card, or 1 on the top half of the paper, 1 on the bottom. Cut them up, shuffle them, and flip them over. Okay? And what you're going to do with this is you're going to flip them over 1 at a time, and you're going to see that word that you want your life to look like. And I want you to just brain vomit on the page the first things that come to mind when you see that word. That is going to be your authentic self talking, because those first things that come to mind, before you have time to process them and think, well, what does this mean? Before you have time to have that spare thought come in of, oh man, my mom would kill me if she saw that I wrote this. I should do this instead. That split second is where you need to pay attention to. The very first things that pop into your mind, those are going to be the things that's your authentic self, that's your passions and purpose coming through, that's your beliefs, goals, and values. And that's going to stop you from feeling like you should do this, because you know. Remember, we talked about some of the reasons why you may be conforming to the expectations of others, and 2 out of the 3 of them were because you don't know. Well, now you know. This is going to help you know. So that's the exercise. And some tips for success here. Put time into this. If you're doing this in the 15 spare minutes between when your kids get home and when you got to start making dinner, they're going to be running and screaming, and there's going to be crayons being thrown everywhere. I don't know what your kids do, but that's what I think kids do. So there's going to be crayons thrown everywhere, and it's just going to be a total mess, and you're not going to be able to put in the time that you need to. The more effort, the more concentrated effort you put into this exercise, the more powerful it's going to be. And the more it's going to enable you to know about yourself so you can stop living according to the expectations of others. Second tip for success is set yourself up for a self-reflective state. This looks different for everyone, but for me, it could be essential oils, candles, turning off the lights, playing some nature sounds or a little babbling brook thing, or some meditation beforehand. But just get yourself in the mindset where you've put aside the distractions that are going on in your life and you've really focused on you. This is your time. This is self-care. This is about you. This isn't about your responsibilities and your stresses and everything else happening in your life. Like I said, third tip for success is to write everything down. Don't try to remember it. I know you are all incredibly intelligent, powerful memory women, but write it down. Write it down. And the fourth tip, like I said, take note of the first thing. Before those doubts and those shoulds and those worries start popping into your mind, write down the first things that come to mind. For example, a friend of mine did this, and the first thing that came to mind, I think it was for happiness, the first thing that came to mind was apple. The word apple. She wrote down apple, and that was that. See, once you have all this down, then you can go back through and start looking through and sorting through and finding these common themes that start popping out. But for now, just get it on paper. Once it's there, then you can cut and paste and rearrange and sort through that. But all we're doing right now is pulling that authentic self out of us and getting it in a place that we can work through it. That's all this is. But it's all with words too, right? We're writing our own dictionary. We're saying, yes, I want success and fulfillment and happiness, but what does that look like for me? How do I describe that in my own voice? That's what this word associations game does. This will help you understand what you want instead of what others want and help you see how you may be living according to the expectations of others already. Like I said, shoulds and have-tos and things like that come from people telling you that this is what you have to do and you not knowing otherwise. This exercise is going to help you understand that otherwise, so you know what you want and you don't have to do anything other than trust yourself because you know. In conclusion, I've said a lot today. I have told you a lot of information and we're going to have about 10, 12 minutes for question and answer, which is perfect. So the 3 takeaways that I want you guys to really remember from today. Number 1, use language that focuses on the positive instead of the negative, not toxic positivity, but the ability to open that door for progress so that you can move through challenges. My dog is squeaking a toy right next to me. It's a little bit annoying, but we're almost done here. So use language that focuses on the positive and opens the door for success and progress. Number 2, use language that gives you the power and you the choice instead of giving that away to someone else. Remember, blame and fault is completely useless because A, you can't change your own life then if you're giving it to someone else. And 2, sitting there blaming each other isn't making progress towards fixing the situation. Thing number 3 to remember, use the word associations game to break free from expectations and understand what you want out of life, not what other people are telling you to do. So that is what I have for you guys today. And that was a lot. I hope you guys were able to take notes. Like Sam said, she's going to send out the replay, so feel free to watch it again and again and pause and rewind and do whatever you need to really get the most out of this. These swaps, and I sound like the most cliche personal development meme out there, but these swaps and this language can completely change your life. It can move you from a place where you don't know anything about yourself, where you are uncertain, where you are stifled, where you don't know what's happening, to a place where you are progressing and you're recognizing your truth and your authenticity and making choices according to that. That is the basis of personal development. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like Sam and I said, we're going to leave some time for questions and answer. So Sam, if you want to pop back on and we can facilitate that, but I'd love to hear any questions that you guys have.
I think I speak for everybody when I say thank you, Jessi. That was a really great presentation. And that word association game is definitely a great takeaway. I think we can all use to define kind of what we want out of life and help us make these word swaps that are just going to make our lives that much better. So for everybody still listening, you can jump into the Q&A and leave your questions. You can also leave them in the chat box. We did have a few come through for, during the presentation, so I'll get to those now. We did have somebody, I think you saw, go back to the word slide. Okay, there are all of the words. And
I'll pick this up while we answer questions so you can take notes of that or take a picture or whatever.
Perfect. So somebody had a question during the presentation of what about saying that in reference to it's not a priority? to others? Isn't it insulting to say going to the movies with you is not a priority for me? How would you fix that?
Yeah, absolutely. You do want to be sensitive to others. You don't want to be like, you're not important to me, I don't like you. This is more of an internal thing. So if it's like, oh, I don't have time to go to the movies with you. No, you do. You're just prioritizing other things. And that's something you can recognize. You can use something kind of general and say, hey, tonight's not a really good time. I have a lot on my plate, but how about we do this next Friday? Are you free then? That concept of, hey, now isn't great, but how about this specific time? And that offer to reschedule quickly and immediately shows that you are interested in going to the movies with them, just not right now. So you are honoring your own priorities, but you're not broadcasting to them that they're not a priority tonight, if that makes sense.
That definitely makes sense. Jenny, I hope that answers your question for you. Alrighty, let's see. Looking for more questions. Okay, yes, Jenny said that answered her question.
Okay, good.
Somebody else asked, you talked about toxic positivity. Could you expand a little bit on that? How is it harmful?
Absolutely. So the biggest reason that it's harmful is that it doesn't acknowledge what's happening in you right now. It's like throwing a white sheet over your face and saying, the sun is out and it's shining and everything is perfect, when inside it's not. And trying to force yourself into a place that you're not ready yet or that you aren't actually there can be very damaging. You start to lose trust in yourself. If someone else is saying it to you, it's very annoying. Just be happy. Well, no, I'm not happy. I need to work through what's going on right now. And so moving away from that, and like I said, opening the door for progress allows you to honor what is going on in you, because that's the most important. People struggle. Life is hard. Sometimes bad things happen. And for you to completely throw your head in the sand and ignore that is disrespectful to the people who it's happening to and to yourself if it's happening to you. So honoring that and saying, hey, it's not great, but I'm moving through it is so much better than being like, everything is perfect. Another reason is that when you say that, you're going to shove these issues deeper and deeper and deeper inside yourself. And it's the same thing with mental health. If you just keep shoving your emotions deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you don't acknowledge them, it's going to blow up at some point and everything is going to fall apart. So setting the foundation of, hey, this isn't great, but I'm working through this, instead of having a very shaky foundation of repressed bad things and toxic positivity on top of that, it's a much more stable way to start progress towards your goals or self-improvement or whatever you're working on right now.
Got it. And thank you to whoever asked that. It was anonymous, but that was something I was kind of surprised by while you were talking about how constant positivity can be so toxic. You always hear people say, well, just smile, things will get better. But that was really insightful to hear about.
Yeah, it's such a common thing where it's like, just be happy and think positive thoughts. And it's not that simple. It's not that simple. You got to honor what's going on within you in order to make those changes.
Exactly. Okay, this is our last call for questions. Otherwise, I see one more and then we'll wrap things up. This person asked, do you have any tricks to kind of catch yourself when you're saying all of these words? And then from me just speaking, I know some people use the rubber band trick. Other people have a coworker or like a friend catch them. What would you recommend?
Yeah, I actually hadn't thought of the rubber band idea. That's a nice idea. For me, the biggest tip that I can give, and that works really well for me, is to just start with one. So we went through a bunch of different words and phrases that you can swap, but just pick one to focus on right now. Not only does that simplify it so you're not kind of running a second dialogue in your head of all the things you said incorrectly, but it also builds the habit of, okay, I successfully swapped this one thing. Now the next thing I want to swap is going to become even easier. Having an accountability partner is really, really great as well, especially if it's someone you trust and you can explain like, hey, here's my goal. Can you help me out with this by saying, calling me out on it when I do something. That can be really helpful as well, especially as you're learning to recognize it. Remember, that first step is just recognize when you say the thing. Don't even worry about changing it right now. Just recognize it. That accountability partner can be really helpful with that. So that's a great suggestion, Sam. I like that.
Cool. Another attendee just asked, I've started to acknowledge what I want, but don't know how to start, or more like I'm scared to take the next step. Can you give any advice on how I should do this?
Yeah, that's kind of the gold mine of questions in personal development there. So the first tip that I give you is to really connect to your why. So why do you want to make the changes that you do? Why do you want to move towards these goals that you have for yourself? Once you have a basic understanding of that, really try to tie it into an emotional thing. So for example, I lived in Minnesota and I had a 2-door Honda Civic, which is not a great mix for Minnesota winters if you know anything about Minnesota. And I would constantly get stuck in the snow and I'd slide all over the place and I couldn't get anywhere because I'd have to scrape ice off my windshield. And it was just a mess. And so one of my goals was to move, and the why, the surface level why behind that was so that I wouldn't have to scrape my windshield, so that I wouldn't be late, so that I wouldn't be sliding all over the place and having to dig snow out of my tire wells and things like that. But the emotional connection piece that I'm talking about, it wasn't just about that. Yes, that's powerful and it's annoying, but when I was able to connect to safety for me and my kids, for more time spending on what I want to do, not being late and having to spend time scraping, but instead fulfilling activities that are important to me, less stress in general, those were more powerful whys. So find that why. Why do you want the changes that you want? And then really tie it into something that really, really, really aligns with your emotional state, your goals, beliefs, and values, and then use that as motivation to start moving forward. That's one tip. It's a big tip. There's lots you can do in there, but that would be my first step for you, is to suggest working through that why statement.
Awesome. And Becky asks, do you have any other resources or books to recommend to continue exploring this topic?
That's a really great question. I don't have any specifically, but there are a lot of really great blog posts out there about the power of language, the ways that you can make changes in your own life. And it also really, instead of delving into other resources, take what you've learned here and work through that. So do the word associations game. Pick one phrase to swap. That's kind of a common, I'm not saying this is you, I'm just kind of side tangenting here. But it's a really common pitfall, is that you learn this new thing and then you keep learning and you keep learning and keep learning and don't do anything with it. So take some of the strategies that we've talked about here and implement those. And if you need more support, try some of those blogs, try Googling books on, power of language, things like that, or reach out to me. I'd be happy to help moving forward and answer any other questions that you have.
Awesome. So with that said, that about wraps up today's webinar. I will be including Jessi's information in the email that goes out along with the recording, so you can check her out there. Thank you so much, Jessi. We really enjoyed having you today.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for being here and for your questions. I really appreciate the interaction.
Hope everybody has a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.